I mean, at this point, anyone who tries calling Failure Frame Isekai trash, like I've seen so many do over the past couple of weeks, we have to call them out for being a damn dirty liar, because we now have officially a little slime pet named Piggymaru. For you to call an isekai with a little slime Piggymaru trash, you must be the reincarnation, the embodiment, the second coming of Satan himself. And let me tell you, as the self-appointed anime guru who controls the fate of the anime community, this is a crime punishable by death if you ever call Failure Frame Isekai trash again. Now, I'm a kind tyrant, so I've never actually gone through with the death penalty, but know it's in my power. But jokes aside though, seriously, when I saw that, as soon as you see the one slime that's different from the rest, you know our MC who's different from the rest is going to take it up. But Piggymaru, and I went and looked at like my anime list, and that's a character that's listed. No idea there was a character called Piggy freaking Maru, and it was gonna be a little slime. Say what you will, say what you gotta, I don't care. This is one of my most anticipated shows every freaking week, and I refuse to change my stance on it. Of course, I have full live reactions though over on Patreon. If you want some full and thought to any of these Failure Frame episodes, it's gonna be over there exclusively. So, actually a very different style episode. We got into the cave last week, or we're literally about to walk out the door and, start our next adventure. And the first 9 minutes, 10 minutes of this episode, they actually focus on the other characters. Now, there's clearly two that are going to be more relevant for potentially side casts, and those are two girls who very much were not happy with what happened to our boy. But we also get a taste of the other heroes, one of which is copping a feel on this girl. Basically, as soon as I saw her character design and who she was hanging out with, I was like, God, she's gonna suffer a redo of Healer event, isn't she? This shit ain't gonna be good. She's hanging out with the wrong crowd, but what can she do? That poor disgusting little dog thing that she had to kill, I understand it looks like it was pulled from Made in Abyss, but that thing could have been a pet. But they bait you have to admit. You go from thinking, okay, this is a pretty disgusting world, anything could be a pet at the end of the day. I didn't think of slime, I gotta be honest. It's not often you see slimes be pets. It's usually like a dog, a cat, or some sort of like, four-legged beast that's gonna work with us. But I like what they did with the start, because for me, I actually, they're very different shows, but both on sometimes how they visually looks, but potentially how they might also structure, because there is so many other characters outside our MC. It does actually kind of remind me of So I'm a Spider, So What, with how it's structuring some things, and I really like that about this, because one of the girls who got uppercutted by the goddess basically wakes up after, I guess, a couple of days is what they're implying. And she's pretty much trying to be like, it's fine. We're just going to brush this off our shoulder. All's well that ends well. And she, tries to crush this girl's hand. She just, you can hear the bones, starting to... I was like, okay, this goddess is... The goddess has a wonderful character design. Legitimately one of the best outfits I've seen on a goddess in an isekai anime, period. But she's insufferable. You agree with the MC, let's ruin this woman's life. Now, the thing is I'm not going to deny that this show's edgy. It is. But edge doesn't have to be bad. And I think by actually not just keeping him angry, he's not just he's not huffing and puffing and trying to blow everyone's homes down. It's pretty much okay, a slime being picked on. He's not, hell, he even let the other slimes go, because, for him, those slimes aren't a threat, right? As long as you're not trying to jump him, and you listen hey, flee away, he's not going to kick something that's clearly stepping on an ant. Or you can look at the princess that he ends up saving at the end of the episode, doesn't kill her because he can generally read her as a good person. But he literally does not care about death if you give him any reason to think you're a bad person or try to harm him. And that is a type of edge. Whether or not you agree with his mindset, it is a type of edge, but edge doesn't have to be wrong. And the idea that, I hope this is a gimmick that he uses. He used it against the boss last week where he pretended oh my god, I'm so scared, and he had his hand up, right? And he was basically waiting for the opportunity to say paralyzed. He did the same thing to these guys. Now, it was actually a little more risky because up to the boss fight last week, the paralyze and stuff was working on monsters. But he did try to use it on the goddess, and the goddess seemingly it didn't work on. The goddess is the most human-looking character that he interacted with, that he tried to use these abilities on. So it probably was a bit of a gamble, and he probably was legitimately scared, like, what if this doesn't work? I am gonna die. But the fact that he once again does the whole gotcha bitch moment is just fantastic. And while we didn't really get to see them die, it's confirmed they did. I was expecting they were gonna go like extra edgy, where we were gonna see similar, like their eyes bleeding like we did to the monsters when he was poisoning them. But it's the question that I have, and I'm so interested to see what the show does, because I want to say it's probably going to be very similar to something like, you know, my instant death ability, where you know he's always going to win because he's the most powerful thing ever. So I imagine it could be something similar to that, but in that show it was more comedy direction. This show's more serious direction, so I'm interested to see what they're going to do, because you can have characters that you know are never going to be defeated if you write it properly with it. If it's less focused on the battles and like, is he going to win? If you put the focus on, no, it's a personal story about growth and, you know, finding companionship and pushing back against a corrupt world, you could have a character who could seemingly one-shot anyone. But you can also still introduce ways that he might get his shit pushed back in, depending if certain abilities don't work on certain characters or creatures and whatnot. I mean, as it stands, you would think he needs to do something different with his abilities if he wants to go up against the goddess, who might be able to reflect it all. But that could just be that he just needs to get his skills up to level 5 or 10 or something like that. Either way, this episode, I actually think, if you look at the 3 episodes, gives a good taste of what to expect from this show. I think episode 3 does the best at showing the bigger picture, the other characters, the other perspectives, how people are feeling, and also what he'll do against people that he meets. Lets one person live, walks away from her saying, hey, you know, you'll be free in a couple of minutes. I literally have no reason to hurt you. We also see that if there's creatures that he knows are weaker than him, he's not some edgelord who's gonna smile and say, I get to kill it anyway. Like, everything he's killed up to this point is because he's had to, because they tried to kill him, or they literally were a threat, right? Like, so the fact that you can have that edge with this MC without it being like he's a psychopath, I can appreciate that. The show ain't gonna be for everyone, but I think collectively we can all at the very least agree that Piggy freaking Maru as a slime name is adorable as hell. And for that reason alone, this is an 11 out of 10 episode. People can say what they want about the 3D, I do notice it, but it honestly doesn't bother me. Between dark caves and a dim forest, I mean, I notice it most on his human character model, but it's still, I mean, I've watched worse, to be honest. And as long as I don't always have to see, like, if every episode was just I only saw him in 3D, yeah, then I'd be bothered. But I think he was 3D like 2 to maybe 3 times this episode, and the rest of it just, I love the sharp art direction and gorgeous backdrops. Let me know what you're thinking of the show, though, down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Marco-san, here in 12, Sean Cafferkey, and we also have Jessica L. Compton. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you all have a good one.